As we heard a moment ago, that today is the anniversary of the horrific decision that the Supreme Court made allowing abortion in America. And in order to do this, they had to invent something because they declared that somehow or another this was a right. Now, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Constitution. It's not there. In fact, it says very clearly that we have a right to life. But that they ignored. And somehow or another, they made abortion a right. And when they were asked where this is in the Constitution, they had to make something up, and they said, it's in the penumbra of the Constitution. There is no such thing. What that literally means is next to the shadow. So you've got the Constitution, then you've got the shadow of the Constitution, then you've got something that's next to the shadow of the Constitution. That's where they found this right. And they made it somehow or another claim to be a right that people have to be able to put babies to death in the womb. Now, thankfully, that was finally overturned after 49 years, and it was sent back to the states. And I don't think I need to tell you that we live in one of the most left-wing states in the nation, and consequently, this state is trying now to pass some of the most horrific laws in the world, literally. Not just trying to say that, oh, this is okay for somebody. No. These people are going way, way, way beyond. In order to understand just what this means for them, we need to put it into a perspective. The unfortunate soul who right now sits in the governor's mansion asked that the legislature of the state of Minnesota would expedite a vote on this particular bill. And there are 3 of them, by the way, so there's one that's being dealt with right now. It's called the Protect Reproductive Options Act. That one passed the House on Thursday. But Walz wanted this to be passed in both the House and the Senate so that on a Sunday afternoon, that just happened to be the 22nd of January, he would be able to sign this into law on the very day that the Supreme Court 50 years ago had declared that somehow or another this was a right. Thanks be to God, it got hung up a little bit, and so it didn't quite get through. It looks like the Senate is going to vote on it on Tuesday. And so that's where we have to come in now. Because we still have an opportunity. Right now, the Senate is 1 vote off. It's 51-49. But when we really look at what these people are about, we have to understand that this is not about anything that they tell us. In other words, this is not just a political issue. This is not just a legal issue. It is certainly not a woman's issue. It's not even a human issue anymore. Why do I say that? Because listen to what these people want to do. If these things pass, here's what will follow. Minors will be able to have abortions and sterilizations without parental knowledge. Not without parental consent, without parental knowledge. Now that shouldn't really surprise us in this state, because what most parents don't know, because of course they don't want you to know, is 20 years ago already, the unfortunate people in the legislature of this state decided that when a child is 10, Parents do not have a right to have anything to say about anything sexual. In other words, a doctor can give your child contraceptives without your knowledge, without your consent, at 10, because 10-year-olds are so responsible and can make such good decisions about everything. And so this just follows. This is now the next step. So now minors can have abortions and be sterilized without a parent even having knowledge that this is happening. Remember, they cannot give your child an aspirin without your consent. But they can do these horrible things without your knowledge, let alone your consent. But that's just one aspect of what they want. This will allow for late-term abortions up to the point of birth, all the way to the point of birth, and it includes the horrific, disgusting thing that they call partial birth abortion. This is what they're pushing for. But it gets worse. Because remember, this is supposed to be for the good of women, right? So there will be no licensing and no inspection of abortion facilities. In other words, what Gosnell was doing out in Philadelphia is exactly what we've got coming here. They can do anything they want. They don't have to clean anything. They don't have to use decent utensils. I mean, even if you're going to say somehow or another, we want this disgusting thing to happen, you'd think at least that they would say, well, but we have to at least follow medical procedures. No. No, in fact, it gets worse. Because surgical abortions will be able to be done without even a licensed physician being around. Isn't that amazing? You don't even have to be a doctor to do this now in the state of Minnesota. You don't even have to have a doctor in the room or in the building. Beyond that, abortion will now supersede every other right. Thereby, any kind of legal things that will be brought are going to be very expensive, and they're going to be very difficult. Because somehow or another, this right is so important, it's greater than all others. These laws will remove all protections for babies that are born alive. So in other words, it's infanticide. And it's going to greatly expand taxpayer funding for abortions. Now, I said a few minutes ago, this wasn't just a political thing, a legal thing, or a human thing. Why? Because if you listen to what I just said are going to follow from these things, you would have to recognize that there is absolutely no human being. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, I don't care how liberal or conservative you are, there is not a human being alive who has the ability to reason, who is sane, and who has even a modicum of a conscience could vote for any of this. That says something about our legislators, doesn't it? We can't say this is barbaric, because the barbarians at least protected their own. We don't want to protect our own. We want to do just the opposite. That's why I said this isn't human. This is diabolical. And remember, it was just a couple of years ago that the Satanists actually went to court. And they tried to make a legal argument by saying that abortion is our sacrament. This is part of our religion. It's a sacrament. That's what this is all about. You go back through the Old Testament, and you're going to find that there were problems that the Jewish people had over and over and over again. They would fall into the worship of a demon by the name of Molech. Molech required the sacrifice of your firstborn. They fell into the worship of a false god named Baal, to whom they sacrificed their firstborn. If you read the book of the prophet Jeremiah, he will tell you very clearly that the reason that the people of Israel went into exile was because they sacrificed their children to Molech. There's no place to send us into exile. And so we look at the God that we heard in the first reading today. And it says very clearly, "Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. I will repay." God will handle this. We have our part. Again, we need to pray, and if you can fast, pray, because if we can just turn the hearts of even one of these people in the Senate, that would stop this nonsense. If we can just get to the conscience of somebody. Like I said, no human being who is reasonable, sane, or even has even the slightest modicum of conscience could vote for any of this, could be in favor of any of this. The only ones who could are the ones who are seeing it as something spiritual, because it's not human, because it's not natural. This is a spiritual battle. And I have told you over and over and over again, and I will tell you again, the battle we are in is about good versus evil. And now let's make it really clear. We are at ground zero. When you look at North America, there's a little town up in North Dakota called Rugby, North Dakota. And that is the geographic center of North America, north and south, east to west. We are the nearest major metropolitan center to the center of North America. If you want to throw a rock into a pond and get the most out of it, you don't throw it on the coast or right on the shore. You throw it into the middle. There's a reason why the Satanists came here 150 or more years ago and have set up shop. There's a reason why witchcraft has exploded in this area. There's also a reason why you and I are in this area. Because this is the area from which the new evangelization is going to begin. This is the area that God is going to claim as his own, which is why Satan is trying so desperately to make it his. So we have our work to do. Right now, like I said, we've got 2 days. We can pray. We can do our part to try to get somebody to turn their heart against this evil. But in the meantime, you and I have to prepare ourselves. Not only to continue to work for good, yes, we have political things to do, we have legal things to do, but this is a spiritual battle. And we have to prepare ourselves for that. And again, we have to make a choice of whether we want to be part of it or not. There are a lot of people who just want to run away. They want to hide themselves. They don't want to be part of what's going on. It's going to come to you whether you want it or not, but it's a question of whether you're going to stand up and be counted. The devil will be perfectly happy if we will just lay down and do nothing, because then he can just trample all over us and do whatever he wants. So if you just want to lay down and do nothing, you're not on God's side. Doesn't matter how much lip service we give it, we're not on his side if we don't want to stand up and be counted. We are being given an opportunity that is so blessed to be able to be right at the center, to be able to take on the battle for good. we have the greatest opportunity because it's being dropped right in our lap. And so the question now has to do with our response. As we heard in the first reading, we can't return evil with evil. We have to bring the good. We have to bring the light into the darkness. We have to bring the blessings into the curses. We have an opportunity to bring the love of God and of our Lord Jesus into a world that is trying to give itself over to Satan. That's the battle that we've got going on. It's a battle for souls. And for these unfortunate people, yeah, they recognize very clearly what's going on. As they said, this is their sacrament. Why? Because this is where Satan is getting his power, from the blood of the innocent. But they are deluded. It is true Satan is getting his power from that. But we have to remember that St. Thomas tells us that God will give to every single person all the graces necessary to save their soul. Now we know that on the adult level, not everybody will cooperate with that. But babies, it's a different matter. And so God, St. Thomas says, it'll be in one of three ways. Either through a missionary, which could be someone's parents or whomever is preaching to them, or it will be through infused knowledge, or it will be through a vision of their guardian angel. So before these babies are put to death, they are given an opportunity to the best of their ability, obviously, and their infant ability. They're not going to say no to God. So yes, Satan may be trying to do this to be able to gain knowledge, but these children are for God. These children are going the right direction, which means they're on our side, not theirs. And the power that is there with these little ones is God's, not Satan's. So we have to recognize these people in their delusion, thinking that they're going to get power from this. It's going to backfire on them. God is going to use the very thing that they think that they're getting power to be able to destroy them. But that's how God is going to do it. You and I, again, have a choice now to be able to do what we ought to do or to do nothing. That's a choice given to all of us. So there is that very, very tiny little minor thing that we just heard about in the announcement. Yeah, there are postcards there. You can put them in the mail. We need to pray. We need to be serious about this. We need to recognize that this is what they like to call spiritual warfare. And now we're not even just talking about, well, Satan's tempting me, so there's some spiritual warfare going on. No, I mean we are talking about good versus evil warfare. We are talking about everybody is going to have to take a side. And once again, what a blessing that we find ourselves right in the middle of it. Because for lots of time we could say, oh yeah, those poor Christians over there. Oh yeah, those poor people over there. Well, it's not over there anymore. It's right here. So we need to make a choice. We need to stand with Jesus Christ. And we need to stand for the truth, and we need to stand for life. Because if Satan knows that he wants to put the rock right into the middle of the pond, so does God. And for whatever reason in his providence, he's chosen to put us right here. Don't question why. Just ask God what he wants you to do. He's put you here for a reason. He's put you here right now for a reason. What's he want us to do? The battle is on. And so it's no longer coming. It has arrived. And so we need to make sure that we are well founded in prayer. Nothing is going to happen unless we are praying. Our Lady has given to us the rosary as the ultimate weapon. There is an apparition that was approved in a place just outside of Rome. And in that, Our Lady told them, the little girl that she appeared to, that the weapons we have are infinitely more powerful than the most powerful weapons that they have. They have nukes. We have the rosary. We have the Lord. We have the sacrament. You see what they're trying to do? In the Holy Eucharist at Mass, we have the sacrifice of the innocent one. And the blood of Christ is what brings about all the power for the forgiveness of sin, for the cleansing of our souls, for the cleansing of the world, for the salvation of the world. And so the closest that Satan can come is the blood of the innocent ones. But they're not perfectly innocent because they have original sin. So he can't quite come up with the same thing. And as I said earlier, the little ones are for the Lord anyway. And so in the immediate, Satan might get his power from there. But in the long run, it's going to boomerang on him, because the power of these little ones is united with the power of Christ. So we have the sacraments. We have the sacrament. We have the Lord truly present in the Holy Eucharist, and we need to spend time with him there. We need, as I said, to be rooted in prayer, and we need to be rooted in charity. It has to be the light of Christ. It has to be the goodness that we have to bring into the world. That is what needs to shine in the darkness of this world. So again, you look at what these people are doing. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. For years, they tried to play their little semantic games and tried to do all these things to confuse people. There's nothing confusing about this. This is just blatant and in your face, because the battle is on. Everything has been dropped. It is right out there. That means it's time for us to stand up. It means it's time for us to make a decision. It means it's time for us to be counted. So I've challenged you over and over and over again, which side are you going to be on? Because it's 100% one way or the other. Anything in the middle is choosing the wrong direction. We are either for Christ or we are against Christ. There is no in-between in this one. And God, in his mercy, has placed you right here at ground zero, right at the center, because he loves you that much, and because he's going to give you that kind of grace. Where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. We are talking about the most heinous sin on the face of the earth. We are talking about the most despicable laws, more extreme than almost anywhere in the world, that they want to put in right here. So sin abounds. That means grace does too. And that grace is there for us to be able to accept, to be able to act, and to do what God is asking of us to do.